Good morning, Metalheads Earnet. Welcome to the Metal Meltdown. My name is Robert Walton. Who are you?
My name's Anna. I have an Etsy store. It's called Dark Moon Desires.
Oh wow, what happened to Heart of Diana? Did you kill her?
Partially I just rebranded. I didn't really like that name too much. I wasn't 100% on it on the first when I first opened my store, and then I finally decided to rebrand.
Wow, so go check that out. She's been here many other times under the name Heart of Diana. We've done movie reviews. We've done intoxicated gaming. We've pissed off incels. And now we're talking about the what are we doing today?
We're talking about albums this year, and I'm
Oh
sick,
my
so
god!
this
Yeah,
is
Anna
fun.
Anna pulled some strings because this is the only chance that I really have to do this, frankly. But we're talking about the best heavy metal, hard rock, punk rock, and extreme metal in 2019. Here's the deal: I have 5 albums. These are my 5 favorite albums of the year. And Anna has 5 albums that I'm assuming are her 5 favorite albums of the year. I assume. I doubt she would bring her worst, because that would defeat the purpose of this whole thing.
They're pretty good.
I would hope. I would hope so. They're on your list. Jesus. We're gonna talk about these albums. Last year I did my whole list, and then she did hers. I think we're gonna do one at a time this year.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'll talk
alright.
about one, and then you talk about one, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. Just in case we have an album in common on both of our lists,
Which I'm pretty sure we do.
I think there's at
Because I
least
saw something there that.
I think there's at least one, at least. But in that scenario, I have some honorable mentions at the ready. I don't know if Anna does as well. Do you?
I think I have an honorable mention, yeah.
Okay, so we have honorable mentions, but the whole point is that the at the end of this video, we will have 10 albums, 10 that we feel are the best of 2019, that we feel define this year of heavy metal, hard rock, punk rock, and extreme fucking music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you start?
Yeah, why don't I start? This is a great idea. Yeah. Couple of ground rules for me. For obvious reasons, I won't be talking about anything that I did not formally review on the Metal Meltdown. If it was featured in an albums I missed video and too fucking bad, I mean, if it was that fucking good, I probably would have done a full review anyway. So say la vie. I have no idea if that, obviously that does not apply to Anna. I honestly had no idea what she's gonna pull out of her ass. And this is actually a true story. A month ago, when we were starting to arrange this, I made like a little joke of a prediction where I was like, I bet you're gonna have fucking Devin Townsend and Immortal Bird on your list. And she immediately corrected me and said, there's no Devin Townsend on my list. Which is insane to me because she's a huge Devin Townsend fan. But here's the thing. Now I don't know if this actually is on her list, but I do find it curious that she did not correct me immediately on Immortal Bird. I'll say that. Now, I don't know if that means it's on her list, but the point I'm trying to make here, the grand point, is I have no idea what her fucking list really looks like. I've got a couple other guesses, but there's no real point in me making those guesses because I was so evidently wrong before on at least one of them.
Are you excited?
I am. With that in mind, I'm going to do a couple special shout outs. These aren't honorable mentions per se, these are just some albums that I wanted to give some special awards and give them a shout out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Best debut album, Mana by Idle Hands. It's catchy, it's funky, it's weird. Great fusion of traditional heavy metal and 80s goth rock. They're on tour now with King Diamond and Uncle Acid. They're also on tour next fucking spring with Mayhem and Abath. So definitely fucking check that shit out. Best comeback album. The rest of y'all been going nuts for Possessed. I'm going nuts for Exhorder. Groove metal pioneers back after 27 fucking years. Killing it on More in the Southern Skies, combines their classic American groove metal sound, the sound that paved the way for Pantera, Machine Head, Lamb of God, and they're combining it with Southern Doom, Southern Attitude, a lot of fucking thrash energy, a lot of modern shit. It's just a great all-around record. And the shower, not a... sorry, other way around. The grower, not a shower award. Given that to Thrive on Neglect, Immortal Bird. I kind of trashed this record when it came out. Not so much trash, but I wasn't the most enthusiastic. And I gotta be honest, I'm probably listening to it at least once a week now. So I think that deserves some special recognition. And as far as my official honorable mention is concerned, that goes to an album that I forgot to pull out of the fucking vinyl stack.
Great job.
Yeah, it's so fucking professional. I literally have all the records I'm going to talk about in a small pile.
Oh, I know what that is.
This is Tropical Depression by Florida Man. Great American hardcore punk band. It's a fusion of crossover, post-hardcore, noise rock. It's enthusiastic, it's dirty, it's powerful, it's heavy, it's even really catchy at times. Right on the Loose has this kind of turnstile Iron Regan kind of energy to it. A song like Holy Roller adopts this kind of stoner biker rock mentality.
That was
and
kind of like my summer album.
this
That,
yeah?
Yeah.
It's fucking great. And it's pressed on this stunning vinyl. Future Robert, you can go ahead and put a picture of it up. Like it's
Like
just
a big orange.
it's awesome. Just a great record. It's such a great sounding record too. Like when I listen to this, it really feels like they're in the room with me. You know, if you told me this was a live recording, I might have actually believed you. Yeah, I mean, if we were just talking about hardcore and punk music, this would be my number one record of the year. But we're not. So c'est la vie. Any honorable mentions or shout-outs for you?
I guess it would just be, for me, it would be Tool, Fear Inoculum. It would be a special.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's partially because it was such an anticipated album and me being a Tool fan. So now you know it's not on my list, but it is an honorable mention because it was a comeback that was, how long? 13 years?
Yes. 13 years.
13 fucking years.
That's fucking insane.
And it's...
You know, it's funny because
it's well produced. It has like the elements of Tool there and all that, and it's I was something I was looking for, but it's not. I love 10,000 Days. There isn't like a Rosetta Stone on that album. There's it's not. I don't find like a very prominent song on that album. Like I really like it. I think it's a solid album, but I don't think it's like wow, amazing. It's
yeah, the reaction.
It's Tool. Like it's a Tool album. I get it, but it's not. Like I said, there's no definitive song on that album.
It's interesting. I mean, for me at least, I'm not the world's biggest Tool fan, so I kind of came out of that album just like, yeah, it's exactly what I expected it to be. It was a Tool album. But these last couple weeks, I've been getting all these comments where it's like, this album's fucking shit. Because I'm getting together some opinions for a worst albums list of 2019, and a lot of people have brought up Tool.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I'm shocked. I mean, I expected to see the fucking Nostalgia Critic shit pop up, but not fucking Tool.
I guess for a lot of people, like, the whole newness of it, and it's like, wow, it's a new Tool album, like, the excitement kind of, like, wore off. And the hype around it as well. But I don't think it's a horrible album. I think it's just a Tool album, and it's nothing spectacular. It's, as I said, like 10,000 Days is probably one of my favorite albums, and that's probably going to upset people. But it's because it's the most well-produced, and they cut a lot of fat off of that album. Don't get me wrong, like, I love, Enema as well, because it's such a raw album, but... 10,000 Days is just...
If we're talking about which one is just better produced from a professional standpoint.
They cut a lot of fat. I mean, there's a lot of songs they have where there's just, like, 10 minutes of noise.
That won a couple Grammys, if I'm not mistaken, 10,000 Days.
It's been so long. I forgot what...
But I do think you're right about the hype, though. I think the anticipation for that record was so high that regardless of whether people saw it as good or bad, the reaction was going to be pretty extreme. It's kind of like the reverse Phantom Menace. Like, Phantom Menace, when it came out, the anticipation was so high that no one wanted to believe it was fucking crap. So it was just like, oh, great, this is great. I'm not saying Fear Inoculum's crap, but it is that same kind of thing where it's like there's so much anticipation that no one can really sit down and actually digest it as a record.
I'm glad that they went for a well-produced route and didn't go through what the fans were demanding. They wanted another Enema basically, and that wasn't going to happen, especially with their age and everything. No. And these fans get so hooked on records, they just expect to have that record forever and ever.
That's arguably what Metallica has gone through for almost 30 years now. The fans are waiting on Master of Puppets Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, guys, there's no Master of Puppets Volume 2. You're lucky you got Master of Puppets Volume 1.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off. Like, they're not 25 years old. They're not alcoholics anymore. They're not
Yeah.
going to make that kind of record. They're just not. But what are you going to do? I don't know. That's interesting. Fear inoculum. Well, alrighty then. Shall we get right into it then?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna we're one record at a time. I'll talk about one. She'll talk about one. They're not in any particular order, at least as far as ranking is for me. I don't know if that's the same for you. I'm just gonna talk about a record, in an order of release, and then two final records, which, minor spoiler alert, both received a 5 out of 5 on the Metal Meltdown. So there you go. And the first one I've got here is Samsara from Venom Prison. This is the band's sophomore record, or UK or English death metal, death grind band. This record is socially and politically progressive, on top of being one of the most vicious death metal records I've seen this year, and that says a lot because this has been a fantastic year for death metal. It's every bit as topical and poignant as it is vicious. Its words are as sharp as its riffs. It just completely fucking pounds the skull and the brain, and its inherent political, dare I say, feminist edge makes it feel a lot more modern than a lot of the fucking records that have come out this year. Like,
So I have to say that Venom Prism was on my list as well.
oh,
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah.
That's not the one I was expecting. Oh,
So instead of like Devon Town, because, well, yeah.
that
I
was
mean,
okay.
yeah.
Well, no. Let's talk about Venom Prison, because apparently it's on both of our lists. I knew there was one record. I just didn't think it was this one, to be honest with you. That's okay. Let's talk about Venom Prison. What do you like about Venom Prison?
It's extremely relatable for me. I mean, there's not. I mean, we still struggle at this time. We're looking at female-fronted death metal bands as like being silly and kind of like a joke and kind of like a you know like it, and it gets really tiring. But
Oh yeah.
Venom Prison isn't there to fuck around.
The discussion is tiring even for myself. I mean, I remember when this didn't happen with Venom Prison, but it did happen when I reviewed the Immortal Bird record that we just talked about, where a lot of people, Immortal Bird, were on a fucking storm in the comment section of that video. I don't think that's up for debate. But they were giving me shit over just being kind of a dick, whereas they were giving everyone else shit over bringing up irrelevant stuff like, oh, well, it's a great female-fronted metal
That kind
band.
of like shit is so old.
Yeah,
But
it's so dated.
But it's
I mean,
kind of like
the
a resurgent now just because of like stupid incels.
The
or
only
whatever.
good thing to come out of that entire conversation is that it brought me and Immortal Bird closer together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just goes to show that women have a very weird place in the world of heavy metal. And I don't know if it'll ever change, to be fully honest. This is ultimately
I think it's
a pretty
changing a lot.
Oh, it is changing.
And that's
but
especially because of like a lot of death metal bands, you know, a lot of them have gotten older and away from misogynistic lyrics as well.
Cannibal Corpse and
Yeah,
Devourment in
there's-
particular.
Because it's not extreme anymore. It's just creepy and weird.
Oh yeah. But all I'm trying to get at is that at the end of the day, and I'm hoping this does change, for the record. I'm not saying, oh, Robert doesn't want... No, I want this to happen. But just as far as I see it now, this is, for the time being, still a very heavily dominated genre by white, straight men.
It really is.
And, again, I really am hoping that'll change. But for the time being, that's why a record like this stands out so much. I mean, even just looking at these lyrics... Uterine industrialization. You got lyrics like beauty, once wild and free, now silent and domesticated. Mothers separated, possessions confiscated, shackled, marked, and branded. Slave owners need to spot their thrall. Like, there's a lot going on
it's
there
really,
about child separation, about being basically enslaved to create children.
Yeah, having, like stuff that goes on in the US about Planned Parenthood. Like, it's stupid because women don't, like, so many women in the US, they don't have the right to be able to get proper sex ed and birth control and stuff like that. It's like, you can't learn about your own body and you can't control it either.
There were bands before that have previously touched on similar topics, or at least feminist topics. cattle decapitations, forced gender reassignment comes to mind, turning the
But
typical
yeah,
misogyny of the genre on its
but
head.
it's more. But that
But
song is more about transphobia. This is more about the
absolutely,
control of the female body,
absolutely.
and the whole like idea is just like, you know, if you have a uterus, then people are like suddenly so worried about the possibility of you potentially being a mother.
Mm-hmm.
So like even, you know, me going, like I've experienced these things going to the doctor and people being like, well, when are you gonna have kids? When this and that, you know, they get worried about you damaging possibly your uterus or your ovaries and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I don't care as long as I'm healthy, you know. But it's, yeah, and then once again, it's about like women not being able to have access to safe
Mm-hmm.
abortion and stuff like that.
I can't really think of, again, even though other records have touched upon similar topics, I can't think of another death metal record that has gone quite this far. There are other records within the extreme metal spectrum that have. Ithaca from the world of hardcore metalcore released a great record earlier this year. Svalbard, I can't remember the name of it, but they released a fantastic record last year that dealt with a lot of similar topics. But I think this is especially special for death metal because, again, this is a genre that, not really intentionally, but it is somewhat rooted in misogyny and violence towards women. I mean, like, Cannibal Corpse have literally sung songs about raping people with knives. Like, I don't think anyone in that band is a bad person, minus Chris Barnes.
I
Fuck
just chalk
him.
that up to like angry young boy.
Oh, yeah.
Shit. Like it's stupid, and a lot of bands don't do that anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they're not bad guys. Like
No,
freaking,
Corpse Grinder's a fucking cinnamon
he's
roll.
Really, he really is so
He's
sweet.
one of the sweetest dudes.
Like I follow his wife on Instagram. It's so cute.
And you know the other guys from Cannibal, they're all smart dudes. Really, the only asshole out of all of them is Chris Barnes, and he's not even in the band anymore.
Yeah.
Like, fuck him. Fuck you, Chris Barnes, if you're listening. And even just removing the political aspect, not that you can, but hypothetically, even just removing that aspect, the fucking actual death metal on here is fucking incredible.
He really is.
Like, the guitar work is so fucking vicious, and it's pulling from a lot of different areas. It's not just pulling from death metal. There's a lot of great bursts of grindcore. You get a song like Self-Inflicted Violence that has a little bit of a fucking nu metal edge to it, like early Slipknot. There are other songs on the record that pull from death metal and black metal.
And it's not like this band is like a notorious band that's been in the scene for like 10 years, and it's like, oh, you know their sound, but it's, you know, this is pretty new, and it's like amazing that they sound
this is only their
amazing.
second record,
Yeah.
and they've got and it's produced fucking spectacularly as well. I got the producer's name here, Arthur Rizek. He's produced a lot of great death metal this year, from Great Gate Creeper, Tomb Mold. He's also produced great records for Code Orange and Power Trip, so this guy knows his shit. But this might be his best work of the year. And to backtrack on a previous point, before we derail, that's because I found out you like this record and blah, blah, blah. Death metal this year has been very obsessed with being old school. We're getting back to the roots of the genre through some of the bands I just mentioned, as well as other bands. And there are some bands putting their own spin on it. The recent Blood Incantation record's a good example. But again, it's for the most part, it's a lot of sounds that we're familiar with. And Venom Prison is bringing death metal into the future with this album. And I'm not going to lie, this isn't just one of the best albums of the year. It's a definitive record of the decade, if you ask me.
Wow.
In my opinion, it really is. I can't really think of another death metal record that has gone to these social, political extremes and has functioned as a legitimately great record.
Wow, okay. Sorry, I'm yawning.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I bored you. That
No,
you
I'm
yawn.
just, I'm not feeling well, so I'm just like tired.
It's all good.
Oh, yeah, that's really powerful.
You got nothing else to add there?
No, I never, I didn't expect that. Like, it's so hard to say, because now that we are actually coming out of the decade, really thinking about albums that have been definitive for the decade,
God, I'm trying to remember the name of the lead singer right now.
I'm terrible.
I know
at
her
names.
first name is Laura. I apologize if I've got that wrong. Future Robert, why don't you just put it up on screen? But I wanted to shout her out as well. One of the most vicious vocal performances of the year. And I don't want to hear one motherfucker going, oh, great female performance. No, it's just a great fucking performance, alright? Just Just leave that out of the equation.
Because whenever a woman
It doesn't
does
matter.
anything, it's like, oh, that's a great women version.
Fuck female fronted metal. Just call it metal. Like, you wouldn't call it guy fronted metal. You wouldn't call it black fronted metal. Like that's fucking stupid. Get that shit the fuck out of here. So yeah, I guess you talk about a record, Anna, if you have one, since I apparently crossed one off your list.
I think you probably know that I have the Liberation from Disillusion on my album on my list.
I had theorized that it would be there, but I wasn't entirely sure.
It has a lot to do with the fact that I didn't think I would ever hear from this band ever again, and they just came out of nowhere and released this amazing album. I used to listen to Back to the Times of Splendor so much. Like, that album just took me to, like, another world. They have such a unique way of telling stories and adding different types of instruments. So they're songs that, again, like, this album is another album that just takes me to another world. Like, every song is just different.
I really enjoyed that album when I reviewed it on the Metal Meltdown. I believe I gave it a 4 out of 5. One thing that stood out to me was how lavish it was.
Yeah.
Like, there were a lot of different sounds and ideas going across the record. The way it was arranged was almost cinematic.
Yeah, that's exactly how Back to the Times of Splendor was. I've showed you that album before.
Yes.
But the thing is, it wasn't as well produced because it was released in 2004.
I actually thought it was pretty good considering the time and considering the budget.
Yeah. But that's what I really like, is that it just feels like you're visiting another planet.
Yeah, this one is definitely...
what they're trying to say. And...
It really does kind of envelop you in its world. I mean, it's pretty powerful. I mean, just listening to the album, you can't help but picture, like, a guy riding on a fucking horse for, like, a snowstorm, or you know what I mean? Or, like, a horde of fucking monsters battling an army. Like, it does create these really primal images.
It's a really beautiful album at the same time. Like, they have a really good way of making metal sound really beautiful.
Oh yeah, the choruses, the guitar solos, it's all really, really good stuff. I don't know if a lot of other people are super familiar with this. This was not the most popular review I posted this year.
Yeah, because there's such a, like, I barely met anyone who knew who Disillusion was. I thought I would never see them again. I thought they just released, like, this one album. And
I didn't even know that you knew of them when I was researching the album for my review. I had messaged you, and it said, you were like, what are you listening to? And I was like, I got this really cool album from a band called Disillusion. They're like this prog metal, death metal band. And you were like, whoa! Well, they're back? And I was like, they left? I didn't know. I
think they released, like, an EP, like, in 2009 or something like that, but I didn't really know.
Even if they did, that's 10 years. Yeah. You know? Like, and EPs are just teaser trailers, let's be honest. I don't mind the odd EP every now and then, but, you know, if you're at a restaurant, if you gotta pick between, like, a fucking bruschetta and fucking surf and turf, can you guess which one I'm picking? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with bruschetta. Great appetizer, but I don't want an appetizer. That's why I don't watch a lot of teaser trailers. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great record. I don't really have much else to say on that. If you're not familiar with this record, check it out. I'm going to take a wild guess and say a lot of you aren't, because this was, again, not the most...
While you're at it, listen to Back to the Times of Splendor, because that album's incredible. And
A
Day at the Lake is a beautiful song.
I would really like to hear a remaster of that record, actually.
Me too.
It'd be really cool. Or even just a regular repress. Like, it hasn't been on vinyl for ages, if I'm not mistaken.
I think ages ago I found, like, a CD of it on Metal Blade, but then I never got it.
I bet you that's biting your nails over that one now,
no, because now I'm trying to get rid of my CDs. So if anyone wants to buy, like, 200 CDs, let me know.
Yeah, I guess just plug your shit. Yeah, come buy our shit.
No, I don't have 200. I have 100 CDs, but I'll give it to you for $200.
Do you know exactly how many?
It's about 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually sold a bunch in the summer. I've kept a couple, but they're only, like, ones that, like, I have some sentimental value. Like, I still have my Master of Puppets CD because I bought that at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if I'm not mistaken, the timeline's a little fuzzy here, but that's probably the first album I ever bought with my own money as well.
Aww.
So I have to keep that, even if just for that reason.
That's cute.
It was either that or a greatest hits record from Guns N' Roses. Again, the timeline's a little fuzzy, but they were both super close together. So yeah. Nice. The Liberation by Disillusion. Check it out. It's great fucking melodic death metal, proggy death metal. It's cool shit.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, my turn?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know how y'all will react to this, especially considering as much as I liked this album when it came out, I wasn't quite as enthused about it as some were. But that's not what I'm worried about. What I'm more worried about is that while this is a metal album, this is not a metal band.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about Infest the Rat's Nest. Infest the Rat's Nest. Fuck, that's weirdly difficult to say. From King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Are you familiar? You're familiar with this band? Yes. They're weird. I don't think I have
that's
to.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, they've touched every single genre. They've gone from the blues, they've gone from jazz, they've gone from garage rock, they've done country, they've done psychedelic rock, they've done fusions of all of these things. They have flirted with so many styles and genres that to some extent heavy metal was inevitable. I think we all should have seen this coming. But I don't think any of us expected this album to be this fucking good. Or especially to be as heavy as this fucking thing is. To call this just heavy metal is a disservice to everything King Gizzard accomplished with this record. And imagine the most volatile and insane elements of Motorhead, High on Fire, and Voivod thrown into a fucking blender with some more socially and politically progressive lyrics and a lot of fucking fuzz. And that's essentially what Infest the Rat's Nest is. Have you actually listened to this album?
I don't think I have.
You should. I'm going to make a very bold statement here. I'm going to make a very bold statement.
All right.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Thrash metal, we've had a serious drought with thrash metal. 2019 was a lot better. We had the aforementioned Ex-Hoarder. We had the aforementioned Possessed. We also had some good records from Sacred Reich, Flotsam and Jetsam. But in my opinion, really nothing that spectacular. Nothing to quench my thirst as I roam the desert searching for thrash. Until I found this.
Really? Fun.
This is the best thrash record of 2019, and I don't care that they're not a thrash band. If anything, that proves that thrash bands need to kick it up a notch, because this fucking alt-rock band came out of nowhere and just scorched all you motherfuckers. And it's just great. Planet B is nasty, it's simple, it's straight to the point. It has this weirdly kind of Metallica primal rage to it, not nearly as energetic as something like Kill 'Em All, but the fuzz, the sound aesthetic, it's very much in line with that classic record. Mars for the Rich, Organ Farmer, Superbug, all of these records, ferocious, volatile, the riffs are sharp, the guitar solos just ring, they burst out of the speakers. They really have nailed that classic 80s metal sound. And, it's a lot of songs about the environment and the apocalypse and, the kind of shit normal for, I guess, heavy metal in general.
That's been a big theme this year, actually.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be fair, it always has been in heavy metal in general, but I think this year in particular it's becoming more prominent as bands become, well, more prominent.
Yeah,
we gotta bring
the way the political climate is right now, and the fact that,
And, there's a little bit of the regular King Gizzard weirdness in this record as well. When they get into some really psychedelic elements, they create some really odd soundscapes. Venusian and Superbug in particular have some very interesting stoner metal kind of diversions with these long, drawn-out riffs. They're very powerful. They're very cathartic. Vocals are great on this. I'm blanking on the name of this gentleman now. Maybe it's written somewhere in here. But the vocals are just fucking on point. I don't know what else to say. It's just a really great 80s thrash record that was not written or performed by an 80s thrash metal band. And once again, this is proof that thrash metal needs to fucking kick it up a notch, because we're getting schooled by bands that previously had nothing to do with this genre. Alright? We need to fucking change that. Not that I'm really complaining. In fact, I want more King Gizzard if it sounds like this.
Yeah,
like, my God. I mean, I was a fan of King Gizzard before, but my God. I'm not just saying this because I'm a metalhead and I'm therefore inherently biased towards this. I would even argue this is their best record yet. They've made like 15 fucking albums, so
yeah,
In fact, I think they've made 2 other this year. I think one of them's a blues record. They on average release 2 albums every year.
That's crazy.
Right? So yeah, Infest the Rat's Nest, King Gizzard, check it out. You fucking poser. So yeah.
You know what's funny? The second thing on my list was actually Venom Prison. So we're,
Oh, we're
well, now we already discussed Venom Prison, so
oh,
now I
okay.
can.
So go to the number 3 then.
So you actually mentioned this album is Mana by Idle Hands.
I
That
had a
was
feeling. I had a
I
feeling it
yeah,
would.
I've
I had a feeling.
I've been on a huge gothic kick in general. So like I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to this album.
It was actually you who introduced this album to me.
Yeah, it's just like the song Jackie is so catchy and it has like this kind of like 80s goth feel to it. I don't know
Oh,
how to explain
we
it.
can't talk catchy without talking about "Give Me to the Night,
Yeah.
Give Me to the Ages, I It's fucking awesome.
I've been really into I've been having a huge goth kick. I was talking to you about like some dark wave bands that I've been listening to.
That album is like if The Cure got really into Judas Priest. Like they were still like, "Day, I'm in love with you," but then they heard "Screaming for Vengeance" and they went, "Fuck, let's do that, but still do this."
It's
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, this I've been listening to this album so much this year. It's such a mood for me. I fucking love everything about the sound and the feel of it.
Oh yeah. Some of the song structures and song formulas are a little generic if you really want to nitpick, but it's everything they do with them that makes this album so effective.
I would like more of this. I want
all
more
the
of this
choruses
sound.
are expertly executed. The guitar riffs, drumming, bass. The bass actually has a real earthy presence to it. Synthesizers and piano, and the fucking vocals. Gabriel Franco, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
What a fantastic front man. I mean, he really has nailed that classic goth rock sound and added a little bit of
Yeah,
his
it's a little
own
spooky,
modern
it's
heavy
a little
metal.
dark, it's kind of sexy.
Oh, very
It's,
sexy.
yeah.
And so I don't want to, I'm a straight man, but I'm not gonna lie. There's some pretty sexy
Well,
notes.
he has a smooth voice.
Oh,
It's
he
really
does.
nice.
And he's just Idle Hands fits so many different categories so well too. Like everyone I've talked about really enjoys this record. It's very accessible in that
Yeah.
sense because it's really
It's a
catchy.
good way to introduce someone to Doom.
It
That's what
really
I
would,
think.
or for that matter, heavy metal in
Yeah,
general,
yeah.
or just the broader spectrums of hard rock and metal, because it is such a catchy record while still retaining the spooky aura, the gothic energy that this genre inherently demands. And on top of that, they're able to hang with the heavy guys. I mean, again, they're on tour right now with King fucking Diamond.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how much more fucking true do you need to get? And they're going on tour in spring, as I mentioned before, with Mayhem and Abath, and I believe Gatecreeper's on that tour too.
I
Like,
wanna see that
they
so
have
bad.
this fantastic. We're going. End of story. They have this fantastic ability to blend, to appeal to such a wide array of metalheads, and for that matter, regular music listeners, which is not something I can say about a lot of metal records.
I'm gonna have to buy a shirt when we go to the show.
I thought you were about to buy one right now because you opened your phone. Oh no, we're definitely going to that show. That's not even up for debate. Yeah, it's just a great, and as I said before, I think it's the best debut album of the year, and we've had some really great debut albums.
This year's been fucking amazing.
It's been a great year for heavy metal. I guess while we're on the note of debut albums, minor shout out as well to Satan Spits on Children of Light by Devilmaster, and Times of Evil, Wild, and Daring. I think I've got that title wrong, but it's from Smolder, and they're a Toronto doom metal band. Those were like close runners-ups. So yeah, Mana, Idle Hands, spooky, catchy, fun. Check it out.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Great. I love it a lot, actually.
I like how I've already tackled a bunch of records that you've talked about.
I think the next two I don't think you'll have, but maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, I can tell you what this next one is
I
for
know
me.
what that is, yeah.
I think you know what this is. This is a little bit of a late edition, considering it's only been out for, God, not even a full week. But I've had a promo copy beforehand, and I also got the vinyl copy beforehand, so I've been jamming it a lot. So even though it came out later in the year, I feel comfortable putting Death Atlas by Cattle Decapitation on this list. We've already mentioned Cattle Decapitation before, their record Monolith of Inhumanity. That record paved the way for a lot of politically and socially progressive lyrics and topics within heavy metal. Even the aforementioned Venom Prison, I think it's safe to say they would cite Cattle as an influence. That record is legendary. It's arguably, it's their Rust in Peace. It's their Screaming for Vengeance. It's their Master of Puppets. New drinking game. Take a shot every time I reference Master of Puppets in this video. It's such a huge record for them. It's one of the best death metal records of the decade. And it was a case where it's like, will they be able to follow this record up? And as good as Anthropocene Extinction was, I don't think they did. I think it's good, don't get me wrong, but it's not on the level of Monolith. This, at this current moment, obviously time will only tell if it actually surpasses Monolith, but at this current moment, I can tell you that I like this album more than Monolith. It's darker, it's more extreme. I know that that in particular is a tough sell, but bear with me. It's smarter, and it's a lot more stubborn. Like, Monolith was about the horrors of humanity. Monolith, you know, again, forced gender reassignment was about transphobia, but it was also about taking the misogyny that death metal inherently has and twisting it on its head and turning it into a revenge rape fantasy, where a man who is a wanted rapist or whatever is being hunted down and fucking tortured. And you also have songs like Jesus Christ is Suicide, and of course the title track, songs about the environment, songs about garbage, pollution,
I mean,
religion.
the whole theme of it's like, you know, like, we're gonna fucking die.
This is a lot more stubborn. This is, we've already fucked up to the point where we cannot go back and will not go back. Cattle Decapitation on this record take a weirdly sinister joy in watching the earth burn. And like, or at least that's how it comes across in some of these songs. I mean, the record consistently samples voiceovers and bits and pieces from news programs talking about the environment, pollution, world governments, and even Mr. Donald Trump himself. And Cattle Decapitation, they're not, again, it's not specifically the environment, it's not specifically transphobia, they're just saying we fuck. We fucking suck. And we deserve whatever is going to happen to us in the end. This album is the fucking sonic apocalypse. It forecasting a real apocalypse brought on by nothing short of human greed, ignorance, and corruption. And we don't really need to talk about the performances. It's Cattle Decapitation. You know that the performances are fucking insane. Travis Ryan is a fucking goblin. He's a fucking maniac. I don't know how he does this with his vocals. He's just fucking insane. The drumming's fantastic. Shout out to Oliver Pignard on bass. This is your first record with the band. You're a Canadian. You rule. You also play with Cryptopsy. Check them out as well. So we won't talk about performances. There's no point. We already know they're amazing. I want to focus a little bit on lyrics. Because this shit's fucking nasty. I mean, you've got this kind of shit. Be Still Our Bleeding Hearts, which is a play on the classic conservative term bleeding heart liberal bullshit. And they make no point. Be still our bleeding hearts. Death is part of life. Embrace time's eraser. Ditch the ignorant philanthropy. The scale has tipped and not in our favor. You know, they're basically saying, you know, oh, God forbid we give a fuck. God fucking forbid, you know? I mean, it's too late now, but, you know, God forbid we try regardless. And, you know, one day closer to the end of the world, a song called Finish Them. In the opening track, Geocide, they're just saying, fuck the future, fuck all mankind. Not the most eloquently put, but it just goes to show the rage and the energy and the stubbornness that goes across this record.
Misanthropy. I think maybe that's the word you're looking for. The word misanthropy.
Yes, that sounds about right. The ending track, Deaf Atlas, they even come to terms with the fact that we fucked up the earth. My favorite track on the record, Vulturous. Some crippling fucking grooves on here. But these lyrics as well. The carcass beckons to the buzzards, entitled to its pound of flesh. The wake picks clean the remnants of once fertile lands, cleared by corporations, distressed by the fucking shit stain. Man, like, if that's not an analogy for fucking corporations, then I don't know what the fuck. I mean, they fucking say it, for God's sakes. And may I say as well, for those of you who want to go, oh, you could just ignore the politics, who cares, it's political, whatever. First off, you can't. Second, fuck you. And third, how much more political can you get? Like, if you can't... Like...
If you can actually say ignore politics, you live in a very privileged kind of world. And
I'm almost jealous of you. Yeah. I'm almost jealous of you, because you can just say, fuck politics, who cares?
Or you're just... You know, you're one of those people who are like, ignorance is bliss.
Because I've talked, without dropping names, you know who you are. I've talked to a couple people who are like, well, who cares if it's political? It's just boring, whatever. It's the same album. And I guess to some extent, you're not objectively wrong. Cattle Decapitation have embraced a shtick. But here's the thing. The shtick works. And more importantly, this idea that just forget politics, who cares? I won't tell you what music to listen to, but if that's your mindset coming out of a record, then you
probably
clearly
have
have not paid attention to this record. You are what they want to fucking... You're the problem.
I'm sorry.
You are the subject matter of this
if
record.
You probably have the IQ of a rock then. And you just don't... Because if you're saying that shit, it's like you can't comprehend the entire fucking gravity of what they're trying to say. You're dumb and you don't want to care. And that is as bad as being an asshole.
You cannot remove the politics from this. I mean, for fuck's sakes, this album that is essentially about corruption and greed and ignorance was released on fucking Thanksgiving and Black Friday. How much more political can you get? That's on par with Slayer releasing God Hates Us All on 9/11. The difference is, that was by accident. This is on purpose. Fucking give a raise to whoever fucking is in charge of marketing, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. The review just went up literally a week ago, so I think I should be quiet and move on, because we also have other records to talk about. But Death Atlas, Cattle Decapitation, the most fucking extreme band of this decade, somehow got more extreme. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I almost gave it a 5. Definitely fucking check this thing out. Bravo.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Wow. Wow, my turn.
Yeah, mine are fiery.
I don't know if you paid attention to this album, but The Ruins of Fading Light by Crypt Sermon.
Oh! Yes, that's a cool album. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of traditional doom and being a huge
I actually should have known that this would be on your list.
You know what's funny is the Candlemass album, because I haven't even listened to that Candlemass album.
Oh,
because I forgot that they made one.
Door to Doom, yeah. I'm actually shocked, come to think of it, that you haven't listened to that.
You know what? I guess my whole logic is like, well, I love Candlemass already. Let's give someone else like a spotlight here.
That's like nominated for a Grammy too. Shit. But back to Crypt Sermon. That's more important right now.
It's kind of what I've been looking for a while, because a lot of doom lately has just been either like stoner or this one embraces like clean vocals and stuff like that, and it has like a lot of catching songs. Surprisingly,
clean vocals are the best part of the album. I mean, Angry Metal Guy made a point of saying that sometimes his key is a little weird, sometimes the notes are a little off. I don't know if whoever wrote that review, I don't know if you've ever sung a song in a professional setting, but professional singers, when they stretch their voices, they get those odd off notes, and that adds a natural element to Ruins that I actually really enjoy. Like, Steven Tyler built a fucking career off of having off notes and stretching his voice. If I'm not going to give Steven Tyler shit, why the fuck would I give Crypt Sermon shit? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's actually not really a lot to talk about as far as the album itself is concerned. It's just a really well-structured, well-executed, well-written modern doom metal record.
Yeah,
you know,
like traditional doom is. I think it's been kind of lacking for a little bit. I feel like it's gone kind of stagnated.
Yeah,
because it's all been like the most like typical like thematically. It's been kind of typical.
There's a
formulaic.
There's a wealth of bands out there. The problem is they're all kind of sounding the same and bleeding into one corporal fucking mess. The few bands that have tried to go into other territories, good for them, mind you.
Sometimes they kind of go traditional metal kind of route instead.
Chemist has gone that route with Desolation, which we both agreed was our favorite album last year, come to think of it. Pallbearer as well, bringing in influences from progressive rock as well. But, as these bands expand, they kind of get abandoned by the doom metal fan base. Doom metal has a lot in common with black metal in that sense, where the fans are just like, fuck it, this is not the traditional sound, I'm not interested. And don't get me wrong, there was still some solid doom in general. There's the aforementioned Smolder record, but at the same time, there were a lot of records from my way where people went, "Oh, this is like Black Sabbath brought into the modern era." And I just listened to these records, Magic Circle in particular, because a lot of people were telling me about that. And I just listened to it. I'm like, yeah, there's nothing objectively wrong with it, but like, I've heard this before. There's nothing that special about it. Crypt Sermon, they just do everything so right, that I'm willing to look past all that, personally speaking.
Yeah, it's a really enjoyable album, and I've listened to it quite a bit.
I'm still
And
a little shocked you
yeah,
haven't listened to Candlemass, though.
I'm kind of surprised too because wasn't it released like last month or something like that?
No, it's been
Yeah.
out since
Really?
February.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Where the fuck did you get last month
I don't
from?
know. It's not
Holy
because like last
fuck.
time you told me, I don't remember when it was, but you told me last
Well,
sometime, and
that
I was
that
like,
was that. I think that's because the Grammy nominations were revealed.
yeah,
Because they got it was I believe the song's called Starless, the Great Octopus.
whatever. I'm busy sometimes. I can't
Yeah,
remember things.
yeah. God forbid that we all have lives.
Eventually, I'll listen.
Oh yeah, I mean there's tons of stuff. Like I never listened to Tame Impala until recently. Even though Moose is like the biggest fan of the Tame Impala in the fucking
Yeah.
world, it happens. You just get
Didn't they
sucked
release an
up.
album this year?
I don't think so. I know they've got a new single out,
Oh,
so
okay.
it could be for an
Maybe.
upcoming album.
Yeah.
I'm not really the person to ask about that though.
But yeah.
Yeah. The
I
Ruins
feel
of
like
Fading
that.
Light. That was not quite as spicy as some of our other records here, but what are you gonna do? There's just nothing to get spicy about. It's just a really fucking super solid record. Anyone who likes doom metal should definitely have this in their collection.
Yeah.
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 All right, now we're getting into the two big boys on my list. Both of these albums received a 5 out of 5. I'm gonna go with the one on top first. Both of these albums I love. Both of these albums I've consistently listened to over and over. There can only be one though. So the runner-up for me, not that this list is ranked, but hypothetically, if it was, the runner-up would be Golden Grey by Baroness.
Oh yeah, of course.
This should not be a huge shocker to anyone, frankly. It just fucking shouldn't. And neither should my number one for the record, but this in particular. Um, Baroness have been through a lot this last decade. They've changed a lot. They've grown a lot. A lot of lineup changes, a lot of personal accidents and trauma that has affected them. They bounced back pretty good on Purple. Solid record. But it didn't quite blow me away. I don't know. I guess I'm in the minority on that. I mean, shit, if y'all love it, don't get me wrong, it's still great. I own it on vinyl, so don't get me wrong, it's still great. But this, for me, Golden Grey, was their true comeback after their bouts, after everything. This record is diverse, it's powerful, it's serene, it's beautiful, it's haunting, it's everything that I personally look for within hard rock and heavy metal music. And it's performed with the utmost enthusiasm. It's performed with an incredibly heartfelt John Bailey writing some of the best songs of his career, creating some of the best jams of his career. He's so confident on this record that he's actually doing a lot more improv as well, which is really great. He's backed up by Gina Gleason, who's pretty new to the scene altogether. I don't know much about her, but she is pushing him to some much more powerful and creative territories as well. Her vocal harmonies, her guitar parts are amazing. Everyone sounds amazing. It's a fucking amazing record. And on a more personal note, this record also came at a really great time in my life earlier this year.
Sorry,
Where
I'm
my
feeling crap. I'm just like dying over here.
It's all good. Go ahead, die. I'll keep talking about
Okay.
Baroness.
That's alright.
But like I mentioned it a couple times on the Metal Meltdown, not really in detail. I won't do so here. But just to reiterate, my family's been going through some weird shit this year, and this record came at a really great time with its lyrics, with its melodies, with its atmospheres, to deliver me some kind of emotional catharsis that I wasn't necessarily getting from other records that were coming out. And it has everything to do with the incredibly personal touch that John adds to this record and to his lyrics. And, a song like I'm Already Gone, did I make a huge mistake when I said your name? Oh, I miss the sweet perfume of oil and gasoline, all the stars, all the suns, all the air I breathe, all the bottles that I leave. I'm already gone, too late, so long, And he's just talking about his life. He's talking about alcoholism. He's talking about driving. He's talking about road trips. He's talking about the life of touring, Throw Me an Anchor as well. Really great fucking love song. And just gonna throw this out there. The fucking catchiest rock song of the year. End of story. The stars that shone between us were bluish green and golden like. Beware the hand that feeds us, where the birds of prey hold on to the stolen light. Throw me an anchor. I hope you learned when you give me fire, I made it burn. Like it's almost like a warning to people that try and reach out to him. I'll do anything as well. This might be a little too real, but I had like a legitimately cathartic moment talking to my mom when this album came out, and this song was playing in the background, And we were talking about my sister, who's been through a lot this year. She's
Oh.
in Toronto General Hospital right now. And there was like a really cathartic moment in this chorus where he's just saying, I'd do anything to feel like I'm alive again. And
Oh.
this was playing while we're having that. And my mom fucking hates heavy metal. As far as she's concerned, there's no difference between Megadeth and Cannibal Corpse. There's no difference between Slayer and the fucking Insane Clown Posse. It's all the same. It's all loud. It's all noisy. This stuck with her. And that's very rare, in general, but specifically for my mother. Cold-Blooded Angels, beautiful fucking song. Seasons, beautiful fucking song. Seasons as well, bordering on black metal with its Devin Townsend atmospheres and its almost death heaven aggression. Jesus, I've been talking about the lyrics, but the music. There's great influences from stoner rock, from psychedelic rock. The producer on this record, whose name I'm blanking on, but he plays in the Flaming Lips, and he brings a lot of his influences to the table, particularly on the closing track, which is like a fucking psychedelic minefield. It's insane. And on top of all that, ignoring the emotional component, ignoring the incredible flexibility and artistic integrity of this whole thing, it's just a really catchy, well-executed record. I've probably listened to this at least once a week since it's come out. There was a point where I was listening to it almost every fucking day. I've been ranting. What do you have to say about this record, if anything?
I don't think I've listened to it that much. I know because you're a huge Baroness fan. I expected that album.
Yeah. I mean, shit, I just ranted for like 5 uninterrupted minutes.
Yeah, I like Baroness, but I don't like them to the extreme that you do. Like, I like them. They're really cool. They were awesome to see live. Yeah, sorry. I'm just, like, dead inside right
Wow.
now.
Are you going to wake up a little bit to talk about one more
I'm
record?
sick, okay? Yes. Yes, I will.
Come on, just hang in there like 15 more minutes and you're all good. You're all good. You made it this far. We'll finish strong.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like Anna doesn't have much to say on Golden Grey, so we're moving on. But Golden Grey, Baroness, I don't care if it's not super crazy heavy metal. It still falls on the spectrum of rock, therefore fuck you. Also it rules. Check it out. So yeah. You have what, 2 more records?
I have one more.
You have one more record.
Yeah, because we shared the Venom Prison one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think this means Fear Inoculum gets added to the list then.
No.
As well as Florida Man.
I would actually...
Because they're both on it.
I would rather add Devin Townsend's Empath, even though it's not on
Hold
the list.
on, that's not on your honorable mention. No, you don't get to bend the rules.
Yeah, but can I just make it an honorable mention now?
You already made your fucking... Talk about your one record. Unless it's Empath.
No, it's not. I think you kind of mentioned this album about Times of Obscene Evil and Wild Daring by Smolder.
Oh, yo! I'm happy to see that.
It's been a good
I guess
year.
I'm not shocked by that either. Fuck, another great doom metal record.
It's been a good year for female-fronted stuff, and I'm a hoe for those kind of, like, stupid epic themes about, like, fighting battles and whatever, so... It's just, yeah, it's another doom metal. But I kind of feel like they also lean on traditional metal a lot as well. And I wouldn't say it's just doom. I don't know. It's also kind of like traditional metal as well.
The lead singer, Sarah Ann, I follow her on Instagram, Last Vinyl Before Doomsday. She's nuts for like traditional heavy metal, doom metal, stoner metal.
Yeah.
Tons of records that even I'm not familiar with. Even our resident extreme expert, Ty Tilley, who regularly comments on shit. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in her collection that he's not very familiar with. And all of that stuff is brought to the table on Smolder. I mean, it's a smorgasbord of epic doom and traditional heavy metal shit. I guess since we've already talked about that, there's not much else to say about that record? Unless you have anything to add that I didn't touch upon already?
I don't know. It was fucking great. I love it.
I'll say this. That album is the sound of a fucking warrior queen standing on a mountain, raising her sword, and then lightning strikes the tip of her sword.
This was the...
And it permeates off the blade.
This was the continuation for me for that last Visigoth song. I mean, last Visigoth album, because that Visigoth album was last year. Oh. And now this year we have Smolder.
Warrior Queen? What was it?
No, that's a song.
Metal Queen.
No, that was Warrior Queen is the
song.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Oh, you mean like thematically?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
It's kind of like it's for me. It was like Visigoth, and now it's like Smolder this year.
Yeah, I should have. God, I actually should have been able to predict some of this shit. Oh my god.
You got 1, 2 things, I think. Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
Well, all right then. Shit.
A+ for me then.
A+ for you. You did it.
Yay.
And apparently you have a last-minute honorable mention.
No, because you were like rushing to do everything, so I was like, I was gonna mention Devin Townsend and Empath, and it's
Well, then do it. We're here. Go for it.
I mean, I love the album, but
I mean, if future Robert, I mean, there's plenty of records here. I'm sure you can structure a top 10 out of it. Just tell me Empath. Talk to me about Empath while we're here.
I love Devin Townsend. I'm a huge Devin Townsend fan. He just makes like the weirdest shit ever, though, and that's just why I kind of like it. Also, is because like there's some weird noises and sounds on that album.
It is such a bizarre record.
It's really weird. And that's why it's an honorable mention. Why it's not on my list, per se, is because of that reason, but it's an honorable mention because it's so fucking weird.
The best thing about that record is also the worst. It's so ambitious, so weird, so bizarre that it kind of hurts itself. That entire album, I think in my review, I described that album as an all-you-can-eat Las Vegas buffet. It's extravagant, it's expensive, it's a lot to take in, and you need to prepare yourself, you know? You need to not eat for the rest of the day. You need to prepare. You need to walk home. You're not going to call a taxi. And that's without even mentioning the fact that some people don't like Las Vegas buffets. And I'm fine with that. I get it. That's Empath, you know? It's not for everyone. And for the people that it is for, they need to prepare for it. Because even by Devin's ridiculous standards, this is a crazy fucking record. We're talking about a man who one moment will do Strapping Young Lad, some super technical industrial death metal, and the next minute turn a fucking comedy metal record into essentially a Star Wars-esque space rock opera.
And he'll do fucking Ocean Machine, which is probably one of my favorite albums of all time.
Like, it's insane, and that's a great thing about the record as well. There's so much of that. Everything Devin has ever done, everything he's ever touched.
He did a video for Evermore. Is that the song that he did the video for? With the one with, like, the cats in space?
Oh, yeah, that's the one. But
I love that.
Every single sound that Devin has dared to touch across his entire career shows up in some way, shape, and form on Empath. Even Steve Vai, the man who gave Devin the start of his career. You know, Devin performed on some of Vai's records in the 90s. Vai himself pops up on the record. And there's so much... Chad Kroeger pops up on the record. Apparently those two are like best friends or something. And I gotta be honest, Chad Kroeger sounds fucking great on the record. I'm like, damn, it almost makes me want to give Nickelback another shot. And then I listen to Nickelback and I'm like, oh, yikes. But yeah, I think it's a little ambitious for its own good, but I'm mad respect for Devin to go into those territories, because if anyone was going to, it was definitely going to be him. I've talked to some other people. It's funny, when we were talking about Fear Inoculum earlier, looking for the worst album of the year, Devin Townsend came up a lot.
Yeah, I guess it's because of the weirdness.
It is,
of it.
yeah. It's too weird for its own good in some parts. And that's a shame, but for the record, I totally fucking get it. I won't argue with you one bit on that. But I admire that Devin just completely unleashes himself artistically on this entire fucking record. Bravo, Devin. On that end, bravo. So I guess that leaves us... You have no more records.
No, that's it.
So that leaves us with one more record, and I was actually convinced that this was the record we were going to have in common.
Really?
Yes, I was convinced we were both going to have this record in common. So I'm curious. I'll be curious to ask you why it's not on your list when we get down to it. But for now, let's sing its praises rather than debate. Let's talk about Caligula from Lingua Ignota. There's a lot to talk about here. First things first, this isn't really a metal album in the traditional sense.
See, now that's why it wasn't on my list.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Because it's like, I really love that album, but also I wanted to be consistent with my list. So that's probably...
This is not metal in the traditional sense. I think that's very fair to say. This isn't Judas Priest. This isn't Metallica. This isn't Mayhem. This isn't Bathory. It's not. There aren't a lot of riffs per se on here. There aren't guitar solos, especially not guitar solos. And the general atmosphere and vibe has more in common with industrial and noise. But here's my thing. As far as I'm concerned, the criteria for what I review here, those both fall under what the Metal Meltdown covers. Plus, we did review it. So, you know. Plus, what other genre could this possibly fit into?
That's true.
Like, could this
I mean,
possibly fit into hip hop?
even if it was under noise, that's still extreme music.
Oh
So
God, yeah. I mean, and that's also what it comes down to. Is this is metal in the same way that often Punisher is metal. You know, like it's just so abhorrently extreme. This record is one of the most horrifying experiences I've ever had listening to music. I mean, from start to finish, Lingua Ignota, real name Christian Hater, just pours her heart and soul into every single scorching second of this fucking thing. The entire record, for those of you who don't know as well, is essentially Christian Hater recounting events from her personal life, sexual abuse, domestic abuse, her relationship with the Catholic Church, her relationship with God, the people that surround her life, how she dealt with these things, self-harm, mental health, all kinds of shit. It's all channeled into this record, and it makes for some of the most volatile shit imaginable. I cannot relate to a lot of the shit Lingua Ignota is going through. I can't relate to a lot of the shit Christian Hater's going through. I can't. And I hope I never do, for the record. But I certainly felt like I could when listening to this record.
it's definitely an album I can relate to personally.
And you know, I can at least relate to the feeling of being so desperate, so angry, so fucking pissed off at the world that you would, you know, make songs like this. Like, there were certainly some moments where I really did truly relate to what was happening. I mean, this is a powerful fucking record. Her vocals, she's a classically trained singer, and it shows on this record. Her range is incredible. Her screams, her cleans, the choirs, the way she layers her vocals to create these choir-like effects across this. It's incredible. It's so haunting. This record, more so than any other record that I have personally talked about here, is not for everyone. I've talked to a lot of people in particular who are just like, this is just screams and noise. Even by the standards of metal, this is too much. And to some extent, I don't blame you.
Yeah, but hear me out. Like, early fucking black metal was exactly the same way.
That's exactly what I was getting to, actually.
like if you listen to like them, just like fucking when
Dark Throne,
when Varg was talking
Burzum.
about making black metal, and it was like he got like the shittiest speaker and the shittiest everything just to make all this fucking noise.
Exactly. You hit them. You literally read my mind. The difference here is that this has an emotional component that black metal never has. Could never have, realistically. The closest band within black metal that could have this kind of emotional core is Death Heaven. And, I don't know, Death Heaven has been rejected by black metal, so even that's debated.
Which is hilarious, because they are black metal. So
oh, they absolutely are. I
fucking fight everyone on that.
Post metal is like, whatever, fucking. If you're gonna give Death Heaven shit, then give Emperor shit, give Enslaved shit, give Alcest shit, give Agalok shit, because they're all playing around with the same ideas, you know.
Yeah, Alcest is, well, everyone knows Alcest is, like, you know, post-black metal now.
They're arguably pioneers of the genre.
Yeah, Agalok are way more softer, and freaking Death Heaven is so heavy.
Wow, we really derailed.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is that this is just so inherently extreme. I mean, the drums, the industrial synthesizers, the vocals,
what is really
the
important
atmosphere,
about this
the
album,
lyrics.
Sorry.
No, go. Sorry, go for it.
It's like we often look at what men struggle with and their pain, and it's often like discussed the most in the metal community, but like some of the shit that women deal with is so painful and hurtful, and it's like women can be brutal and express it in such a brutal and painful way as well.
Oh yeah. I can't think of a single male musician that could pull this off. I really can't. Not because of a lack of talent, but because men, typically speaking, just have not been through these experiences.
Women can make just as brutal lyrics and just as brutal sounds.
Oh god, yeah.
Because of like the pain that they've been through.
And I mean, I need a lyric sheet. this thing doesn't have a fucking lyric sheet. One moment. Talk about the record. Go on. Sing its praises.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, it's been a great year for female-fronted stuff. I mean, I hope that this kind of helps pilot some more female fronted stuff, a lot more extreme female fronted stuff
I
as well.
think it will. I mean,
Yeah.
this record, even though it's not necessarily metal, has been so heavily embraced by this community. And, her performance art style is so unique within
Mm-hmm.
metal as well. She doesn't play with a band. She performs with a piano and a bunch of lights and a bunch of
I
cloths.
feel like it's something we've been needing for a while too, and I don't care how many times I keep saying this. It's so important as a woman that this is part of the genre now, that this has appeared,
And
because it's something that hasn't, like, it's completely unique. There isn't, I don't really know any other like solo female albums that are like this.
and on that note, I'd like to point out that this record, um, when I posted this review, I won't out anyone because that's not my place to do so. But I did say in the review I would like to hear from people who have been through similar experiences, not to out them, but just to understand more. I want to hear how this record affects you, because this record for obvious reasons will resonate with these people a lot more. And again, I won't out these people, but I will say it was genuinely shocking how many people reached out to me and said, "Yeah, this has happened to me and I relate to this person." And it was actually kind of powerful. Like, I suddenly had like these emails going on where I was basically playing a fucking therapist. Um, and I'm not a therapist, for the record, obviously. But it was, they were like, this was genuinely cathartic. And even talking with you about this was cathartic, because I feel like men don't always want to understand, let alone do understand. Um, and that's part of what makes this record so special in 2019 too.
Especially
I don't think I've Venom Prison came close, mind you, but this is how metal adapts to the Me Too
yeah.
movement. This is how metal truly moves into the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is this. I've got the lyrics right now. I had to look them up because there was no lyric sheet with this record. But she's talking about in this song, "Do You Doubt Me, Traitor?" Where she's talking about how people doubted her when she began to talk about how people had abused her. And how can you doubt me? How can you doubt me? She repeats that over and over. Satan, Satan, get beside me. Rejecting God, rejecting Catholicism. She was raised a Catholic, not anymore. And there's a particularly powerful bit here. I don't sleep. I don't eat. I don't sleep. I don't eat. She just repeats that over and over and over again. And it drives you mad just listening to it. And again, without outing people, without going into weird territory, I know people that are kind of going through similar things right now, and
Mm.
God, it's just powerful. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, there were some really powerful lyrics across this entire record, and
Honestly, it's kind of
powerful
inspired me
passages.
to get back into writing, because there's things that I've been wanting to write about but I've been avoiding because of, like, the fact that it's triggering.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even for myself, as a straight white man who's lived a pretty good life, there were some moments on here that were kind of triggering. I mean, I
But
won't pretend to relate to these things because I don't.
I mean, it's,
But I do know what it's like to be
yeah,
fucking miserable. I
yeah.
do know what it's like to be in these really dark, violent places, and
For someone who,
she
yeah,
she she capitalizes on that so well.
it's like, I don't know, it's comforting to find another woman who understands you that way. It's, again, not something you can understand, because women have kind of like this sisterhood about stuff like this, where it's like, if you find another woman who understands you like that, it's just so empowering. I
Hmm.
can't explain it.
I mean, I don't.
But
Yeah.
but then she becomes like this face for women who have experienced similar things, so they feel empowered by her, and it's like a great
I
outlet.
think that's incredible. Because I mean, I a lot of the people I talk to were just like, yeah, I don't actually even listen to a lot of
I
rock, let
like
alone
I've
metal.
I've had friends who are in abusive relationships. I knew someone who, like, she ended up, because of like the toxic relationship that she was in, she ended up becoming so depressed that she gained a lot of weight. And that was really hard when she came out of the relationship, because she's like, well, now, like, my whole body has been changed because of this, and
Hmm.
like being controlling. And it's like, it's so weird how
It's
many people I know
it's
like who
it's
have
so
been in.
powerful to see that turned into a record like this, being turned into something so constructive and cathartic, therapeutic for so many
Mm-hmm.
people. I mean, no disrespect to Venom Prison, I have sung their praises, but this is the real world. This is
Mm-hmm.
real, real, real shit. Stuff that's happening to women probably right now as we speak without
Mhm.
getting too gruesome. And there's no other record like it. This is an emotional fucking roller coaster that challenges you and confuses you, and it's not for everyone, but for the people that it is for, it's a once in a lifetime fucking record. I mean, this is yet another definitive record of the decade for me. And regardless of whether it's metal or not, it is my number one album of the year. Like, end of story within any other genre. Like, it's fucking incredible. And it is metal. Fuck you. In an aesthetic sense. If Offer and Punisher is metal, then so is fucking
Yeah.
Lingua Ignota. Fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think it was a pretty great fucking year for heavy metal, wasn't
It
it?
really was.
It was fucking great. So that's all 10 records, or all, God, lots of records, because there were honorable mentions and stuff. So, I guess we have to do a little bit of math. We had... Wow, I'm so
Sleep now.
sorry.
Yeah, good night.
Yeah, Anna had to pull some strings today, because I have no other time to record this, and I wanted to record it, and she's not feeling great. So thank you, Anna, first off, for being here. We're almost done. Hang in there. Let's go over our albums, and let's construct our top 10, which should not be very hard.
Okay.
We got Samsara by Venom Prison, Infest the Rat's Nest, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Death Atlas, Cattle Decapitation, Golden Grey, Baroness, my number one, Lingua Ignota. Obviously, we can't add Venom Prison again, so what were your 4 records?
Disillusion, The Liberation, Mana by Idle Hands, The Ruins of Fading Light by Crypt Sermon, and Times of Obscene Evil and Wild Daring
Obscene
by Smolder.
Evil and Wild Daring. I always forget the obscene.
It's a long name.
So that's 9 records. Honorable mentions.
Add the Baroness album on there. Does that make
It was
more
already
sense?
there.
Oh, okay, wait. Yeah, that makes sense.
Why don't we add this, because we both sung its
Yeah.
praises.
Yeah.
So we're adding honorable mention, Tropical Depression by Florida Man to the list. You said it was your record of the summer.
Yeah.
And that's a great description, actually, because this had some great summer jams, especially
was.
Holy Roller.
Yeah.
Other honorable mentions, as last minute as one of them was,
Shut up.
Fear Inoculum by Tool, Empath by Devin Townsend. Neither made the list, but they were both very interesting. They were both very ambitious, both very divisive,
Yeah.
according to some of y'all, but c'est la vie. And as well as, Exhorter, Best Comeback Album, the Grower but Not a Shower, fucking Immortal Bird. Lots of great records, man. This is just a great year. You know, I actually had trouble constructing my top 5 this year, because there were some records where I was like, I keep coming back to this, but this is just more effective and more ambitious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was one album that I liked also. Some band called Will They Run or Wild Run?
I'm not familiar with this band, so I can't comment.
It's spelled WILDERUN.
It might be Wild Run. The E might be silent.
Yeah, well, they released an album this year called Veil of Imagination, which is really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I have no issue with this list whatsoever. I think there's a lot of diversity, a lot of great, ambitious songwriting, some lyrically progressive, socially conscious material here. We got death metal, we got thrash metal, we got punk rock, we got prog rock.
Lots of female-fronted stuff.
Hell yeah, lots of female representation. Hell yeah. You know, and that's fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of great shit. Lots of environmentally conscious stuff. Lots of politics. Fuck you if you don't like politics, I guess. I don't know. Go listen to fucking Overkill for the 80 millionth time. I don't know what to tell you. Go listen to Wings of War, their 20th album. It's so good. It's the same fucking album. It's the same fucking thing.
I love Overkill, but yeah, it's holy shit.
It's like, I don't know. Go listen to Rings of Saturn. A lot of you gave me shit for trashing on that album. Even though it's fucking crap and Lucas Mann can't write a fucking song to save his life. He just whittles at his guitar. That's all he's good at. And he edits it in the studio because he can't even do that right. So yeah, I think we're derailing, so I think this is a great place to end this off. Thank you, Anna, for joining us.
You're welcome.
I hope you all enjoyed this. Share with me your favorite albums of the year, and also share with me your favorite albums of the decade, because very shortly I will be going over 20 of the best or most important albums of the last 10 years. That's a lot of records, a lot to discuss, a lot to debate. I know for a fact There will be plenty of records that I will be including that will piss a lot of you off, so I look forward to hearing what you have to say about that. You can also expect the worst albums of the year. I think it's safe to say that, that'll definitely also be pretty divisive. All the records I currently have on my worst of list were all, pretty well loved by a good majority of people to the point
Was
where
there anything that was like non-heavy metal that you liked this year?
Oh, non-heavy metal?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Because there was just like a lot of good music this year.
Yeah, if you just want to talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
All right, so then fuck, no, this isn't the ending, I guess. Yeah. Igor, Tyler the Creator. I thought that was a great record, great modern slice of R&B and hip hop. I've enjoyed Tyler moving into these more sensitive and soulful areas, and I thought that was just really cool and really exciting. Self-titled album from Malibu Ken. Very weird, edgy kind of hip-hop. A lot of weird soundscapes, a lot of weird beats, a lot of weird vocals. That's where that terrifying fucking mask came from as well, which I showed some of you in one of the Vinyl Record Roundup videos, if I'm not mistaken.
The Tasers released a new album this year, which is just some good rock and roll. It's just like fun to jam to. They have a really good vibe and a really good energy.
I think I'm familiar with them.
I've sent you like some of their songs before. They have really good like catchy songs sometimes. But yeah, they released a new album this year. That was really cool. Johnny Goth released Let Them In this year. I'm sorry, I love Johnny Goth. It's like sad pop music, and it's just fucking great.
I remember this. Anna almost put this on her top 5, and I was like, no, you're gonna...
I love it. I love Johnny Goth.
I'm gonna be fucking...
It's weird. It's fucking weird, and I love it.
It's great. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, you're gonna have the Metal Meltdown fucking crucified if you put a pop album in your top 5.
I told you, I've been on like a really weird kick, yeah.
But it is cool. I won't argue that. It's a really cool record. What else? Western Stars, Bruce Springsteen. I've always been a whore for Bruce Springsteen. I love him. Great classic Americana artist. His new album, he delves fully into the worlds of country, and he adds an orchestra and great songwriting. I'm not much of a country guy, but it was a great record. Morbid Stuff from Pup, great Canadian pop punk band. I hate pop punk, so this should tell you how good this record is. Sharp, topical, it's got a great Toronto flair. I like that as well. What else? I feel like there was at least one other record.
Yeah, I feel like there's
for me
else.
At least. I don't know about you.
I don't know.
Shout out to Spiderlands by Slint. This is not an album that came out this year. However, it was reissued this year. It's not a very well-known record. Very weird math rock, kind of predating a lot of emo kind of shit. Mm-hmm. I described it once as if Deaf Heaven and Paul McCartney had a really sad baby. I stand by that statement. It's a very weird record. Definitely check that out. Thank you to Moose for sending that my way.
I showed you this artist. Her name is Lim Kim.
Oh yeah, like really aggressive Asian hip hop. I dig that.
Yeah, she just released that one song, Yellow, like recently.
No album? That doesn't count.
I don't think she released an album, but
no album. That don't count.
Oh, it is an album. Yeah, it's called Generation.
All right, check that out.
I want to listen to the rest of that album.
We listened to one song and we were like, it's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking add that whole entire album.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good year. Mm-hmm. Great year for music in general. So, to backtrack, we got derailed there because of the last minute adjustment. But y'all know the drill. Let me know what you thought were the best albums of the year. Let me know what you thought were the best albums of the decade. Let me know what you thought were the worst albums of the year, because we're going to talk about all those things really, 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 really fucking shortly. Any super last minute things you want to add, Anna?
No, that's it. I'm good.
That's it. That works fine for me because we've been recording for a while. I want to eat something. Thank you all for joining us. You have yourself a fantastic fucking day.